Hi, it's Dan with EUJuicers.com, coming to you as always from our offices here in the heart of Europe. And in this video, I'm going to take a closer look at the new vertical juicer from Sana. That's the Sana EUJ-828. Now, just to give you a quick outline of this video, I'm going to talk a bit at the beginning about the Sana brand, look at the colors, then we'll take a look at what comes with the juicer, what comes in the box, and then I'll go over some of the features that make this juicer unique and different. And then I'm going to actually use it. I'll make a juice recipe. I want to try it with sorbet and also make almond milk with it. And then we'll wrap things up. I'll also put a timeline. I'll pin it to the top comment if you want to skip directly to one of those. So first of all, this is Sana's second vertical juicer. It is the successor to their first one, the 808. And that was a juicer we liked a lot. In fact, it consistently ranked as one of our top favorites, if not the favorite, because it brought a lot of new things to the game. And what the 828 is doing is just kind of upping it. It's adding some new features while still kind of fitting in the same dimensions, the compact size of this juicer. Now, we have a lot of viewers in North America, US and Canada, and you guys might not be familiar with the Sana brand. It's a European brand. It's manufactured in South Korea, just like the other premium brands like Omega and Kuvings. And Sana's kind of known for trying to hit that European market, the design sensibilities in terms of the way their juicers look, the colors offered, the accessories. For example, their 707 horizontal juicer comes in 11 colors. That's something you don't see. They also tend to put in things like glass and stainless steel containers. So they're kind of known for that premium and aesthetic and giving you a lot of bang for your buck, really. But let's take a look at these guys. Speaking of colors, the 828 comes in four. You'll notice one kind of stands out from the other, at least in my mind. But you've got the standard red. That's always the most popular color in juicers. And then there's a silver, kind of a matte silver. Notice there's no white, which was a color in the past. They're kind of moving away from that. Then there's the matte black, probably my personal favorite. It just looks kind of cool, I think. And finally, there's the orange, which is, to me, maybe it's more of a, mandarin gold is what I would call it, because it's got some gold highlights that reflect pretty well in the light. So that's the four colors. What I want to do now is take a look at the accessories that come with the 828. So Sana kind of ups the games when it comes with accessories, and the 828's no exception. First thing is they've got 3 juicing screens. Well, technically this isn't a screen for juice, but it's a screen for sorbet. Now it comes with, like every juicer, the fine juicing screen here. This has tiny little holes inside, and that's to apply the highest amount of pressure. You know, the produce gets pulled down by the auger, pushed against these little holes here, and the juice comes through, the pulp stays inside, which is fine for most produce, and this is what you'll use probably 80–90% of the time. However, these don't work so well with soft things like blueberries, raspberries, softer pineapple or apples. In that case, you want something with less pressure and more opportunity for the juice to go through. That's where a coarse screen comes in. With this one, the holes are much bigger, which means less pressure. You won't get as much juice, but you will get juice. Things like currants work really well in this. We actually made a video where we took fresh red currants from my garden and in 30 minutes turned it into jam. We actually cooked it. In 30 minutes we had a jar of jam, and I'll put a link down below to that using this coarse screen. Finally, this also comes with a sorbet screen. With a lot of juicers, these are an optional accessory. With Sana, it actually comes included. And this isn't a full homogenizing screen like you see in some models, especially horizontal. It's not designed to put in peanuts to make peanut butter or grind coffee. This is designed to make sorbets. You would put in frozen bananas, mix it with berries, things like that. Or maybe something more exotic like frozen avocados, put in some matcha powder, some cinnamon or turmeric. There's a lot of possibilities with that. Another thing that is kind of nice, this juicer does not come with plastic accessories for the juicing container and the pulp container, but they're actually made of glass. So these are dishwasher safe, and the capacity is huge on the juicing container. I've never seen one this big. Usually the max you'll see on a juicing container is 1 liter. This is 1.3 liters. And also the pulp container is glass, which sounds kind of strange at first because you're not eating the pulp, But actually, you'll see today, you might want to save the pulp in the case of making nut milk. I'll save that almonds for cupcakes later. My wife will take the pulp from carrots and she'll mix it with spices and things, put it in her dehydrator, and make crackers. So if you don't want your produce or your ingredients to come in contact with plastic, some people don't, this is a nice option there. And otherwise, yeah, there's a standard pusher and typical brush here for cleaning the screen. This is just like a really big, stiff toothbrush, and you use it just to scrub here when you got impacted things like carrots stuck in the screen. One other optional accessory that doesn't come with the juicer, it's this citrus juicer attachment. This just pops on. I'll show it to you later in use. And this is for making orange juice, grapefruit juice or something, which you can do without it. But if you're in a hurry, you don't want to go to the trouble of peeling it, you can just treat this like a regular motorized electric juicer. This will spin, cut your orange in half, hold it down, juice comes out. It's pretty simple. So those are the accessories. What I want to do next is take a look at some of these features here. Also open it up here and see what's inside. So let's take a look at this and at some of the features that make this different, make this the next generation Sana Vertical. First thing you'll notice is this feeding tube. It's totally different. Now, we made a video recently about feeding tubes. I'll put a link below where we compare all these new versions. See, with feeding tubes, there's this big gap between standard feeding tubes and wide mouth feeding tubes. Wide mouth feeding tubes are great because they're fast and you can put bigger chunks of produce in. On the other hand, they tend to produce pulpier juice, and while you get a high yield initially, once you strain that, you'll see you don't get such a high yield because there's still a lot of pulp mixed in there. They kind of use brute force. Whereas something like this runs at a lower RPM, 43 RPM, and is designed with this standard feeding chute. Now, what Sana's doing here to get around the limitations of this opening, which are mandated by EU law to keep hands from reaching down in there, they've put this side tray as well with a much bigger opening here. Now in the promotional materials you'll see, hey, you can use this to put in cherry tomatoes or blueberries come rolling down into there, which is true, and that's fine. It's a good use for it. I found it really useful for leafy greens, actually. I juice a lot of baby spinach, and baby spinach tends to go everywhere. When you try to get it into these holes, you can try to squeeze it together and shove that in. You can go one leaf at a time, which is crazy. Or you can put a bunch here, push them through this big opening, and then push it down with the pusher here. You'll see it when I make my juicing recipe. So it's kind of a nice compromise, keeping the performance of a standard mouth juicer, that 43 RPM, with the convenience of a wider mouth for some items. Down here you'll notice something different. Here is a pulp regulation lever. I'll flip this over in a second and show you what it's doing. But basically you have two positions. You have three, but the open position's never used during juicing. In fact, you can't even get to that position. But you have closed and half open. Closed is where it will stay most of the time, and that applies the maximum back pressure for maximum yield. However, if you're using this coarse screen for softer things, you'll often want to go to this half open. It reduces the back pressure and allows more gentle juicing for those type of things, and it prevents things from backing up into the juicer. It lets the pulp flow out more freely. This is also handy at the end of juicing with standard things like carrots and apples, because you'll keep it closed for maximum pressure, but with that last carrot, slide it over to half open, and it kind of opens the chute wider here, and more pulp can get out, makes it easier to clean at the end. Speaking of pulp coming out, one thing I like is they've widened the pulp outlet here. Most juicers, it's quite a bit narrower. This is wider, which just means, it's more lanes on the highway, more traffic can flow through. The pulp can get out a little more easily. And they've cut out the top, which makes it a lot easier to clean. Sometimes at the end, pulp gets impacted right in here, especially things like stringy things like pineapple or celery. With this top opening, you can just get right in and pull it all out, which is handy to have. Like most juicers, verticals, it's got a nice juice tap too with a pretty strong silicone plug on the inside. Let me pop it open, show you some of the things inside here. Like their last model, the 808, it's got a twin-bladed auger. It's running at 43 RPM, but because there's two blades, that means with each rotation you're getting two cuts of carrot or produce or whatever. It has cleaning blades here that rotate and keep the stainless steel screen clear. It also has this, you'll notice this little orange thing in here. This is a gear driving these blades here. Now some older juicers use this system, and that system allows you to reduce the speed of the blades. A lot of juicers these days, including the 808, will run at the same speed as the auger. That means this would run at 43 RPM. That's fine. However, with things like apples, things that tend to get foamy, that can kind of stir it up and create more foam. So by having this gear here, instead of running at 43 RPM, these blades only rotate at about 17 RPM. Pretty slowly, enough to keep the screen clean, but not fast enough to make foam in the juice. On the other hand, it does mean you have this little gear to clean. In the past, that was kind of hard. You'd have to try to get in there and get under it with a brush. You'll notice here, if you flip it over, there's this bottom of the gear. You can just pop it out, and it just slides out through this rubber gasket here. And you can clean it real easy and just pop it right back in. So that's a feature I like. Also notice this little drive shaft here, this axle. This is something new. This is a sealed juicing chamber. In other juicers, there would be a hole right here. This drive shaft's longer, and it comes up through the hole through a gasket to keep it leak-proof. But if you have a lot of pressure in there, or if you haven't cleaned your juicer properly, little particles can build up in there. It can cause some leaking if you don't take care of it right. This one's completely sealed, so this drive shaft goes up into this drive shaft, which is integrated into the juicing chamber. It's kind of a nice feature. And also, remember I mentioned this pulp lever. Notice when I open and close, you'll see it's opening and closing this little plug here. Other juicers, you do this manually. Before you juice, you make sure that plug is closed, gives you maximum back pressure. When you clean, you open it up. This allows you to not only go fully open to clean it, but also to go half open, like I said, and reduce that pressure there. So it's a handy feature to have, especially, like I said, for cleaning. So what I'd like to do now is get out my ingredients, and we'll try a juicing recipe. This is what I juice at home all the time. And this is carrots, baby spinach. Usually I just do one apple. I'll see, maybe I'll do two here. And some ginger. One thing different, I actually picked some baby ginger out of our garden today. My wife grows this. And baby ginger is a lot milder, but it's easy to grow. You just take a piece of ginger that you had in the fridge, throw it in a pot, and in a couple of months, you'll have a big ginger plant. So this is mild. I'll use a little bit more of that. And one thing to notice, remember with any juicer, especially verticals, feed things slowly. Feed them one at a time. You'll see that when I'm juicing. Let the juicer completely finish one carrot at a time. And if they're too big, you want to slice them down. Just make it easier on the juicer and also give more surface area. So I'm going to start this up and we'll see how it goes. Notice I've got the pulp lever in the closed position here. So what I did, I opened the pulp flap there to half open, just there with the last couple of carrots, or the last carrot there. And the pulp's actually coming out a little better right now. Again, it'll just make it easier to clean. That's probably enough there. Now, I'm not doing an actual measurement of yield here. I have done that in the past, just to let you know, the 828 with a kilogram of carrots, that's our standard measure. Juices anywhere from about 480 to 520 milliliters of juice. That's a good output. That's right up there with the 808, which was previously up at the top. The wide mouths will sometimes, like I said, get you more, but once you filter out the pulp, you'll probably have about the same or maybe less. This one, it did jam a couple of times on some of the bigger carrots. That's normal. Anytime something jams, it's just a safety measure for the motor not to overload. It stops the motor You reach over, flip it to reverse for a couple of seconds. That pulls any big pieces that got stuck in there. And then you go back to forward, it goes on through. And that's, like I said, normal for a vertical juicer. So with my recipe, which was about a little under a kilo of carrots, a couple of apples, the ginger, and some spinach, I've got here about 900 milliliters of juice. And I'm going to try it out. It's a lot of spinach in there. See if I can taste that ginger. Yeah, the 828 makes real sweet juice, real mild. I'm not sure. I actually did a blind taste test with the 808 with some guys in the office here. I juiced just carrots in both juicers, put them in glasses labeled A and B, and everyone said the A glass, which was the 828, tasted sweeter. Don't know why. If there's like maybe a finely ground bit of pulp that still remains in, I'm not sure, but it's quite good. And that baby ginger is real mellow. So I could have actually used even more than that. Not like the mature ginger you get in the store. That's pretty strong. So I'm going to clean this up and I'm going to come back with sorbet and try it out with the sorbet screen. So now sorbet time. And like I mentioned before with sorbet, if you do just frozen fruits, you'll get more of a ice, a pure fruit ice. So we like to add something that gives it a creamy, ice creamy texture. Bananas being the best, but avocados also being a real good choice, like I said. These are rapidly melting under the studio lights, so let me just start it up. I've got the sorbet screen in there. I have the pulp flap set to closed, and what I will do is just mix banana, then a little bit of the fruit, banana, a little bit of the fruit, and maybe at the end I could stir it up as well. So that was about 3 frozen bananas cut up into pieces, along with just a bag of mixed frozen fruit I picked up this morning, which was strawberries, blackberries, raspberries, red currants I think were in there as well. And with that sorbet screen, it's super easy. I can just shut that so it won't drip later. And I could stir this up, but it's, it mixes it so well in there under the pressure of the auger. And it's just got a really creamy consistency. Just mix it up a bit. It's mixed pretty well here. Let me give this a try. It's a good mix and a really good consistency. Under the studio lights, we've tried to do videos before where it's a race against time because it's hot right here under all these lights. But this is still frozen. It tastes outstanding. So it's a good sweet substitute for your kids and things instead of ice cream. A lot healthier too. And I'm sure the office staff is going to appreciate this in a couple of minutes. So I'll clean that up and then we'll get to almond milk next. A lot of people don't make almond milk. They think it's really difficult to do. But if you've got a vertical juicer, it's actually really easy. As long as the vertical juicer has this little tap on the end there. It allows things to mix together. And I'm going to make some almond milk. I might have too many almonds here. We'll see. The process is really simple. You just take almonds and you soak them overnight. I soaked these all night last night. And then you add water to it and you will ladle that water almond mixture into the juicer. And it's going to separate the almond fibers from the liquid itself, and it'll stir around inside there. And verticals usually make a really good almond milk. Now in terms of how much water to add, it depends how thick, how creamy you want the almond milk. If you go to 1-to-1 ratio, 1 part almonds to 1 part water, you'll have a real thick almond milk. Normally we do about 2 parts. I'm going to start with about like this. And you can always add more, as you go along, because you can test it as you're going. I'm also going to put in a little bit of this. It looks like I'm just adding booze, Actually, this is homemade vanilla extract that my wife makes because we like this almond vanilla milk. And with something like this, all it is, in this case, it's vodka. Usually we use bourbon, and you just put a bunch of vanilla beans into a bottle, let it sit for about 6 weeks, and it will just continue. We add a few beans, you know, once a month or something to keep it going. So I'm just going to ladle this in, and I've got the pulp flap set on closed. I've got the fine screen inside, and that's all there is to it. You want to do this slowly, don't overfeed it. And the side tray is really handy. And this stuff coming out here, this almond pulp, it's actually pretty useful. I definitely want to save it. It goes into muffins, goes into cupcakes, things like that. So here's the last of it, last of the almonds. I ended up using about 1 liter of water, something like that. And looks pretty thick. We'll see how it tastes. I'll just let it run for a bit, get the last almond bits out of there. And notice this, I got this huge cup full of almond pulp. Some people will actually run this through twice, and you could get a little more almond milk if you want to do that as well. But I'd rather save it for cookies. Now there's a lot of things you could do with this. Normally when we do it at home, we'll add things to it more than just the vanilla. You can add cinnamon, maybe cardamom. You could put a date in there to sweeten it up, or even a few, like a teaspoon of maple syrup or something. So this is pretty much just straight almond milk. Pretty thick. I'd say it did about a 2-to-1 ratio. Yeah, really creamy. This stuff is so much better than the stuff you buy in the store. You'd have to try it just to see. And again, yeah, I made about 1 liter of it from this. So last thing I'm going to try is that optional citrus attachment. I'll clean this up and pull that out. So I've got here the optional citrus attachment that turns the juicer into just an electric citrus juicer. I'm going to try it with some oranges. Again, the advantage of this is if you're in a hurry or you don't want to be peeling a bunch of oranges, you can just cut them in half. And it's just going to rotate this and pour directly in. I could put a strainer here. It depends on, you know, the person. Some people like pulpy juice, some don't. I kind of like it with some pulp in it. Let's see how it goes. So I got exactly 1 liter of orange juice here. That's out of 9 small oranges I just picked up this morning. So again, this is just a time saver. If you're in a hurry, you need some orange juice fast, you don't want to peel it. You'll get a little better yield if you actually juice it the standard way, peel them, put the segments in, use the fine juicing screen. But this is good for a pinch. So that's a closer look at the new Sana EUJ-828 vertical slow juicer. What was my opinion? I liked it. I liked the small improvements they've made. For me, I think the biggest improvement is this feeding tray. You noticed during the almond milk video, that was super handy to just feed everything through there. Also, it was nice with spinach and with the berries when I made the sorbet. The other improvements, they're small incremental evolutionary steps, but added together, I think it's a great successor to the already great Sana 808. So we're happy to be offering this juicer, and I'm happy that you watched this video. If you'd like more information on these juicers, please come to our website. That's at www.eujuicers.com. I'm Dan, and I'll see you next time.